Welcome to Amusement Sparks, the theme park design show. I'm your host, Andrew Spahn, and with me today is Jacob Wright of Puff Puff Hour, the Dragon Quest podcast. How's it going, sir?
It's going great. How about you?
I'm glad to be here. Glad to be talking with you. Dragon Quest is an awesome series, right up there with Final Fantasy.
Some may say it's even better.
Some may say that. The flavors are certainly different. The art style is different. For me, I hold them both very dearly in my heart for different reasons. I don't know.
Agreed.
Dragon Quest, to me, I love it feels more pure and more wholesome, and there's that Akira Toriyama artwork, which you just can't separate from the series itself. I don't know, if you love his artwork, this series should have a special place for you as well, or if it doesn't yet, you gotta try it out. But just the world is so cool. It's almost a little bit fairy tale-ish and fantasy, and I don't know, the characters, there's so many cool little vignettes in this series. I feel like Final Fantasy is about kind of convoluted, complex, dark plots, and then Dragon Quest is more kind of simple main storyline, and then a bunch of really cool, interesting vignettes that you encounter along the way. But what are your beliefs or thoughts about why Dragon Quest is special?
Well, I mainly think it's because of the purity of the RPG, like you say as well.
Mm-hmm.
It knows what it does, and it does it best more than any other RPG series, because it takes high fantasy and just tells a simple story, keeps simple mechanics, doesn't try and change it up too much, which some may disagree with, thinking that it doesn't try and be innovative, but it knows what it does and is very, very good at it.
Totally. And comparing this versus Final Fantasy, I feel like Final Fantasy, each game is so different in the art direction and the style and the setting that it wouldn't make sense to do one shared universe theme park. That would have been a little too much to ask for, I think, because it's clearly set in different worlds. Whereas Dragon Quest, there are kind of different trilogies within the main series, but they're all a lot more cohesive. You could see these all taking place on the same planet, maybe throughout the generations, but they're at least sort of in the same setting-ish.
Yeah, it's definitely just high fantasy, medieval times. Yeah, whether it's the Zenithian or Alfgard trilogy, and yeah.
Cool. So, in doing this for a theme park, is there a certain trilogy you want to start with, or a certain game you want to start with, or just kind of mash up all of our favorite parts into one amazing land?
It's definitely a big old mashup.
Sweet. I feel like that works really well, like I said, for the Dragon Quest series. But yeah, for people who are not super familiar with Dragon Quest, in the US it started out as Dragon Warrior. The first game you got free with a subscription to Nintendo Power. That's kind of how I think it got into the hands of a lot of people, was I guess they expected it to be a bigger smash hit right off the bat, and so they printed a lot of cartridges of the first game and then ended up having to give them away, basically. But
yep.
I don't know, introduced a lot of people to the RPG, the JRPG, that is, Japanese role-playing game, in the 80s. And yeah, it's a series that's continued on and on and on, and Dragon Quest XI came out, was it this year? Maybe last year.
Last year.
That game looks amazing. I haven't played it at all yet. Have you played Dragon Quest XI?
Yes, I have, and I beat it. We're just waiting on getting the review done. It's fantastic. If you are into any traditional JRPGs, it follows the format, but it makes a lot more things streamlined. So you actually can see one of the key staples in Dragon Quest, which I've always known it to be unique, is when you go to a status menu, you can't see when you can level up. You would always have to go into the churches and talk to the priests to see how much it would take to level up. Dragon Quest XI just wipes that. Now you could see how much it takes to get to the next level just right there in the menu.
Cool. So they're maybe adding more modern amenities to the series, which has usually more traditional mechanics.
Right.
And that's cool. I've heard it's just amazing. It's kind of the best of what Dragon Quest has to offer. And the graphics are just amazing. It's so cool.
Yeah, they definitely took the same cel-shaded thing that Level 5 did when they commissioned them to develop and do 8. So
right. Yeah, it looks like what 8 felt like at the time. When 8 first came out, you're like, these are the most realistic anime-style graphics I've ever seen. But looking back, it is a little pixely. It looks like a 3DS game, kind of. No offense to 3DS games, and 3DS is actually a really important console for the series, isn't it?
The DS/3DS era, yeah, definitely. They ported nearly everything, including like 6 imports that still haven't come over here
Right?
from the DS/3DS era. So that entire series is now just based off of buying a 3DS, and you can experience most of everything it has to offer.
Would you recommend that over all the mobile versions?
I have not played the mobile versions except for of 1, 2, and 3 because they obviously aren't on the 3DS, but I don't know which ones are better.
It seems like playing it on mobile would be a pain. Like, I mean, I realize it's nice you can take it with you, but you can also take a 3DS with you.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like the form factor of a 3DS is so much better for RPGs than mobile, but they are available on mobile, which is kind of cool. Like, you don't have an excuse to not get a Dragon Quest game, really.
Exactly. 1 and 2 are short enough for them to be suited for like the phone. But yeah, 3
That's a
was
good point.
pretty darn massive to play on the phone. Not gonna lie.
Mm-hmm. Can you tell us about Puff Puff Hour? Like, what do you guys do over there, and like, what could we expect from the show if we want to tune in?
Well, we release episodes infrequently because we're trying to get all people together to record an episode. It is hurting cats. But we are attempting to go through every Dragon Quest related game that was released here in the States, possibly trying to play a couple imports if there's a good English ROM.
That sounds awesome.
On an earlier episode, you had Ultima Final Fantasy, which is part of a huge Geekdom Entertainment set of shows that we have, and Dragon Quest is one of them.
It's awesome, and I like what you guys do to the Dragon Quest world is a lot like what they do to the Final Fantasy world. Like,
right.
Kind of getting, like, appreciating it, going through and describing all the pieces, but also giving honest, opinions and feedback about what's great about it and what is maybe not so great about it and what's different from this game versus that game.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, no holds barred commentary.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. I like podcasts like that where there is an obvious starting point, like it's kind of in the name of the podcast or at least the subtitle of the podcast. But then, it can kind of go different directions from there. And for me personally, I tend to get more enjoyment out of a podcast about a video game than playing the video game itself sometimes. Like, just that conversation and thinking about more like what it means and like the things that humans notice about it is more important than the work itself sometimes.
Definitely. No, when it comes to JRPGs, I feel that way exactly.
Yeah, I get so much joy out of listening to your guys' show and Ultima Final Fantasy and various other podcasts. I don't know, it's such a cool medium, and JRPGs are so evocative to me and like inspire my imagination. Like when I was a kid, not that I wasn't allowed to have video games, but I had to buy them myself. Right. So a lot of times I'd go to the like used video game store and the game I was saving up for was gone because they only had one copy of whatever. And so I would just buy the guidebook instead because I'm like, well, I've got this $60. I'm going to buy the guidebook for, 10 or 15 and that'll be almost as good as playing the game. And I'd, read through and look at all the dungeons and all the artwork and all the items. And then sometimes I'd be like, I got enough enjoyment out of this, and like it gave me ammunition to go play in the woods and like pretend like I was this character, that I don't even need the game now. I can just go buy another guidebook or something. I was a weird kid, but hey, it was a fun childhood, all right?
well, some people do prefer that with storytelling and not necessarily enjoy gameplay in most games, so whatever floats your boat.
Oh, hi there. I hope you enjoyed this clip from Puff Puff Hour, a Dragon Quest podcast. If you happen to like what you see, you should subscribe. We have full podcast episodes detailing the main series of Dragon Quest 1 through 11. Oh yeah, and if you like the content, you should check out our other shows from All Out Geekdom Entertainment. We have Nude Clan and Ultima Final Fantasy, the ultimate Final Fantasy podcast. Or, Dragon Quest.